He used to knock guys out lots, and then sometimes he would submit them, but then not anymore. The BJ Penn we used to know. Cut that.
You are listening to MMA Think Tank with Jay and Mike.
All right, Mike, we are back. It's been 3 weeks. We didn't do a podcast after 2 weeks, but hey, you know, it is what it is, right? I mean, I had family come down and spent some time with them. And speaking of family, I have to preface this whole podcast, Mike, by saying that you may hear my family in the background from time to time.
Okay.
Nothing I could do about it, Mike.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm glad you had that time with your son and his girlfriend and everybody, man. So that's totally cool, brother.
Yeah. So anyway, Mike, we just witnessed some great fights tonight, some fantastic fights. UFC 202. Better than 200.
I agree. You know, even though that this the main event, McGregor and Diaz, didn't get a finish like the other fights did in the main event, still I was on the edge of my seat. Anything could have happened, you know?
Yeah, I thought we were going to see a finish in the first, second round, and then, you know, and then from Nate in the later rounds. I saw finishes happening here and there everywhere. You know, it was a crazy fight. Let's get into it, Mike. So let's start off with Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor 2. And, well, by the way, let's just get this out of the way. Supposedly there's a third coming, huh? There might be.
Yeah, and I agree with Conor McGregor. You know, he wants a third fight at 155. Diaz agreed to a third fight. I don't know if he agreed, though, to – I mean, talking about on the mic after, you know, with Joe Rogan. Yeah. I don't know if he means at 155 or just a third fight in general. And I did notice he said, I'm not going to fight till then. But even more interesting is well, I shouldn't say interesting, but what I liked is that what Conor said was, look, I moved up to 170 for these two fights. The third one should be at 155. And I think that's fair, him being 145 champ and doing the last two at 170, Jay.
Yeah, 100% it's fair. I agree with that. And I think Nate Diaz will be fine with that, too. I don't see him fighting about that. I think that he just wants to fight and make that money fight again. You know, he got paid big here, and he's going to get paid big again. So it's bound to happen at 155. And I think that's going to play to Conor's strength. I you know, you and I both know that he's too small for 170.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the size difference between him and Nate Diaz at 170. It was ridiculous.
And it's weird because there's only, excuse me, a couple of inches in height, I think, difference. But I mean, that's you're born how you're born with the frame you have.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, you know me, us growing up and all our friends make fun of my giant calves. I didn't work for them calves, Jay. They just came.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, and me with my chicken legs. Yeah, you know.
But I want to just go ahead and do a quick recap, Jay, and then you can, of course, comment on that or give yours. But real quickly, well, the official score was 48-47, 48-48, 49-47, or it might have been 48-47, I'm sorry. Majority decision to Conor McGregor. Round one, I had leg kicks landing in a knockdown for McGregor to win the round. Not pushing forward like the last fight. Gave the first round to McGregor. Round two, Diaz rallies with a minute left. McGregor had two knockdowns, so I gave it to McGregor. And then round three, striking looked close till Diaz unloaded in that final 30 seconds to the body and to the face against the fence. So I gave that to Diaz. So I got Diaz up. Excuse me, I had McGregor up 2-1. Round four, the striking was close, maybe slightly McGregor, but Diaz has most of the octagon control. So I got Diaz, but it could have went either way. So now I've got it all tied up, 2-2. And then round five, striking again was close, but Diaz had octagon control. McGregor did get a takedown, but Nate was up quick. And Nate got a takedown at the end, maybe like 10 seconds left, and landed some strikes till the round ended. So that was close as well. I gave it to Diaz. So I scored it 48-47. It's 48-47 for Diaz, winning rounds 3 through 5, although rounds 4 and 5 were close. Jay, how'd you score that?
Yeah, I just want to echo your thoughts there.
Yeah,
I gave it
yeah.
48-47 to Diaz as well. I think that I don't see how the judges saw it Connor's way going from the third round on. I gave all three of those rounds, the last rounds there, to Diaz. It was just he had control the whole time. The majority of the rounds anyway.
Right, right.
The majority of the round he had control in all three rounds, and he came off with the better strikes in those last three rounds. I don't understand how McGregor won this fight. The first two rounds I gave to McGregor, and even with the second round, Diaz came on late. It wasn't enough. Diaz
McGregor
didn't take
had
that
two
round.
knockdowns.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. I didn't agree with the commentating at that point. Goldberg, I think, said that he solidified that round with that takedown. No, he did not.
Well, what I heard him say was that, or what I recall him saying, I should say, is that maybe it's 1-1 now. And I was like, and maybe that's probably what he said after what you said, possibly.
Yeah, he did.
And I was like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure McGregor won 4 minutes of that round and had 2 knockdowns. I want to say, though, do you think maybe we haven't seen the scorecards yet. Do you think maybe some of the judges gave him a 10-8 round for the 2 knockdowns and that had something to do with the score?
I really hope not, because those weren't 10-8 rounds by any stretch of the imagination,
Right.
Not for me anyway.
I agree.
I didn't see that at all. I think that these guys, these judges, they need to get their act together, for lack of a better term. I just don't understand what they're watching nowadays. Like, with all these split decisions and everything that we've been getting lately, and I know you've been complaining on it on the podcast as well, this is one of those times where I can't agree with the judges at all with this fight.
This is one time where the person lost the fight. Usually it's a split decision and the fighter that should have won did win, even though it shouldn't have been a split. Now the person that should have won lost, in our opinion.
Yeah, but
worse.
It's bound to catch somebody, and it caught Diaz tonight. Diaz won this fight. My son, who's just getting into the sport, he was watching it, texting me. He was at his grandma's, and he was texting me back and forth during this fight, and he saw it the exact same way I did. He said, I'll give the first 2 rounds to Connor, but the last 3 were definitely controlled by Diaz. Smart kid. I told him, yeah, you're right on the money with that. So I don't know if other people are seeing this too, and you see it, I see it. I mean, what are the judges seeing? I mean, I don't get it. I really don't.
I don't know. I erased it from my phone, but I believe one of our friends and colleagues that we've spoken about before, Nate, said thought Connor won. But you know what, man? We agree, so that's good. There's not much to talk about with I guess with the decisions between you and I, because we agree. I want to move on just really quickly, and if you want to add on after this is fine, of course, as well. Yeah. But McGregor said he broke his foot in the fight.
Really?
Yeah, on the way out from the pay-per-view.
Okay.
When he's walking out of the cage, they were talking about how, hey, he said he broke his foot. I don't know what round that was.
So he broke his foot stepping down out of the octagon?
No, probably Diaz checking kicks.
Or, but I didn't see any sign of that. McGregor didn't show that.
They're talking about how maybe it was the adrenaline that was pumping, and once it's all over, it starts. You remember that John Jones toe?
Yeah. You don't have to bring that up. The upside down toe. Yeah. It didn't even phase John Jones until he looked down after the fight. Yeah.
And then so there was that, and then Diaz said his camp was no good. He was injured, but didn't want to make any excuse.
Wow.
So, man, I don't know.
No excuses. He looked good.
Yeah, to me, it went the way. If you guys looked at Facebook, because we couldn't do the pre-show for this one. I went ahead and did my picks, and Jay had his picks on there as well. Earlier today, I did pick Diaz to win this fight, but the way Connor won this fight, even though he shouldn't have, I think, was the way I thought he would win. He didn't move forward as much as he used to. He used some movement. He kind of held back. So, good for Conor McGregor to get the win. He did what he was supposed to, but again, man, you can't stop that Diaz chin, man.
Yeah. Well, he did get this win the way I thought he would
Yeah.
by the judges giving it to him, because that's pretty much the only way I've seen him winning this fight was the judges giving it to Conor. Nate Diaz at 170, him being the taller guy, the bigger guy, that much heavier guy, I'm sure Nate Diaz is over 185 in this fight. Would you say? I mean, I guarantee you he's hovering around that area. And you've got a guy in Conor McGregor that's probably 169, 170,
Well,
maybe.
who didn't even like cut weight?
Yeah.
Because he weighed in at 168.
Yeah.
And when I saw Nate Diaz, we talked about in the last podcast, he for sure was at least 200 pounds.
Yeah. So the guy is much heavier, much bigger. I just don't see Conor beating him at 170. So this third fight, I think it's beneficial to Conor, but styles make fights, and I think that Nate Diaz's style is just going to beat Conor 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I've got a question for you also, because this kind of goes with kind of how we kind of called the fights. You picked in the championship rounds Diaz by submission.
Yeah.
I picked it Diaz in the championship rounds by a flurry of punches, and I thought in round 3 I was going to get that.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And I didn't get that. Do you think that Diaz will be able to get your pick in the next fight at 155, or you think it's a wash?
I think at 155, since it's beneficial to Conor, I think we're going to face another decision.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, my main question was going to be, sorry, I'm a little tired, is were you kind of bummed out? Diaz didn't really go for many. He's not a takedown artist, but he has a better chance on the ground. And he never really, he went for it against the fence trying to catch Conor's kicks.
Well, that's the thing about Nate Diaz that many people don't realize watching the sport. If you're new to the sport, you're not new, obviously, Mike.
Right.
But if you really think back, Nate Diaz has never been known to be a wrestler. He cannot.
I know where you're going.
He's not very good at taking people down. But when he gets you there, if he gets you there, you're in his world, and you're going to just crumble.
Yeah, when you take him there, that's when he will get you off his back.
Oh yeah, and Conor played it safe and smart. Those first 2 rounds when he knocked Nate down, and Nate was like, come down to the ground with me. He did the smart thing by backing up and saying, okay, yeah, let's stand this back up. I ain't going down there. So Conor fought a smart fight. He just didn't have the gas. After the second round, he was gassed out the rest of that fight. And there's no excuse there. He trained a full camp. I just don't understand what is going on with Conor, because we've seen him fight 3 rounds before and not get that tired.
I don't know. Maybe it's the muscle he added on, or just the weight in general.
Could be. That could be part of it.
I don't know, but Diaz also is a heavier puncher than most guys punching him, so that could take it out of you. A lot of times you talk about your cardio starts getting zapped when you get punched really hard, kicked really hard, get pushed up against the fence. So it's you got a bigger guy that's taken to him. That's the only thing I can think of, and that's why it's so amazing that he took both these fights at 170. Yeah. I mean, it's true that Nate Diaz, even though he's fought at 170, is really more of a 155er. So, but for Conor, that's two weight classes ahead, man. That's that's insane.
Yeah, Conor is a true 155er. If I had to say, that's where Conor's weight class should be, but he's fighting at 145. That's where he's dominated. Going up to 170 was insane. And he's done it twice now. And I give him credit, all the credit in the world. I don't want to sound like I'm just, bashing on the fact that this fight was given to him. He fought a great fight. I don't want to say he didn't. He fought a great fight, but he lost. Score-wise, he lost. Outside of, I want to get back to Nate Diaz and what you were talking about earlier, where, Nate Diaz, he punches hard. And, Nate Diaz has got those punches that they don't look hard, but they are. And he brings them on in bunches, punches and bunches. And he had Conor tagged so many times up against that cage, on several occasions. And I thought that Conor was going to go down at any time. And so I give Conor credit. He took a lot of punishment.
especially the takedown attempts as well. I mean,
Yeah.
McGregor, I said not McGregor, but Diaz, he did a lot of takedown attempts, and as the bigger guy was able, couldn't get it done against McGregor. I'll echo your thoughts that McGregor was tough in this fight, and I agree with that. But they talk about moral victories. I don't even think this is a moral victory for him, Jay. I think he won the fight, but to me, I see him as losing the fight. But even if you believe he won the fight, I don't
Yeah.
think it does much for him.
No.
You guys out there, if you think he won the fight, do you think it means much here? Because I don't, except for having a third fight that we may or may not want to watch. And for me, I want to
do.
see McGregor fights. I want to see him defend the belt.
Oh, I do want to watch a third fight. I don't mind it. Not right away, but I won't
agree.
mind. I won't mind a third fight down the road.
Yeah. Well,
These
that's
two
why
guys,
I said I want to see him. I want to see him defend the belt.
yeah, these
And
two
if he's not
guys,
going to defend the belt, he needs to drop it.
100% agree with you. 100%. He needs to defend the 145 belt. Definitely. We have a guy, that is holding the belt currently that really doesn't deserve it right now. He is not the winner. He is not the champ. It's Conor McGregor. And I'm sure Dana White, that's his next move. He's telling Conor right now. I bet you he's telling him right now, you were going to 145. Because
he's
Conor
been talking
did.
about that already last 2 days.
Conor announced right after the fight that he was going to be fighting at 155 next. Bullcrap, Conor. You need to go back to 145.
Yeah.
Defend that
I
belt.
agree.
Because, all that trash talk and everything aside, look, you can take this win, even take the scoring out of it that you and I don't believe that he won this fight. Let's say that he won this fight fair and square. Okay, so what? You want to fight at 170. You're vindicated now against Nate Diaz. Okay, you got that win. You got that out of the way. Now go back to 145, like Dana says, and just defend that belt. Do what's right.
It may actually be more drama and better drama for Dana to strip him. Think about it. They stripped the champ. He's got something to prove now. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to defeat this. Now I'll come back. And to me, stripping Conor McGregor makes sense for everything. Assuming he's not going to fight, if he's going to not defend the belt in his next fight, which is crucial. You can't be the champ and fight 2 fights outside of your weight class go 1 for 1 and not defend your not defend your belt against some killers.
Yeah.
Some killers, like Aldo, who he defeated, in 15 seconds or 10 seconds.
13 seconds. 13
yeah,
seconds.
you got Frankie Edgar, you've got Max Holloway who's on the come up. You've got all these guys, and it's just ridiculous.
Well, if he refuses to fight and defend that belt, then yes, they must strip him. They that's a course of action they can take, and they can benefit, like you said. They can benefit off that. They can promote a fight, and say this is the rightful champion coming back to take his belt. That whole sort of thing. They can create that drama around this, but I hope they don't do that just to do that. But if Conor acts like a 2-year-old in this situation and stomps his feet and says, "No, Daddy, I don't want to do that," to Dana, "I want to fight at 155." Okay, then you're going to get a punishment, and the punishment is we're taking that belt. Then that's all cool. I hope that's the way it goes, if it goes that way.
Yeah, I'll take that illustration and say, you're in trouble as a kid, but there's that big party you want to go to or that big sporting event, and your parents say, "Okay, look, you can go because this is important, but after that, you're grounded for 2 weeks." And then you say, "Okay," and then you come back from the event, and then suddenly you're still angry because you still have, you're on restriction or something. Well, you know what? Conor McGregor, he got that rematch when he didn't really need it or should have had it. So now it's time to play ball.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And going back to this fight anyway, Conor landed a lot of good shots, knocked Nate Diaz down a few times. Nate Diaz, though, has a chin that is just, it's amazing. It's flat out amazing. I think that only 2 guys were able to ever stop Nate Diaz in the octagon. And, we knew that wasn't going to happen tonight. I mean, we knew Conor wasn't going to be able to do it. He's touched Nate Diaz's chin several times in their first fight, never knocked him down. So for him to even knock Nate Diaz down was a testament that, yes, McGregor has power in his hands. It's no joke. Most men would crumble to those punches. But Nate Diaz, his chin is just on another level.
And what makes no sense probably with what I'm about to say, but if you understand Nate Diaz and you understand the rest of the sport, or even Nick Diaz for that matter, once he got knocked down twice, Jay,
Hmm.
I said he's not getting finished by strikes.
Yeah.
And I know he wasn't going to get finished by a submission because obviously
Yeah.
Conor
Yeah.
doesn't do that. But someone who did not get get back up and didn't need two knockdowns though was Anthony Rumble Johnson. Do you want to go into that, Jay? Or you
Yeah.
got a final thought?
Yeah, we pretty much run the gamut of talking to about Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor to death, like what they're going to do next and everything. Because for Nate Diaz, this fight didn't really do nothing for him either. It's like, okay, even if he won this fight, where does he go next? Well, he's fighting at 170. Like
Right.
this does nothing for his 155 division. So. That aside, though, let's go ahead and get into this next fight. I have beef with you on this fight, Mike.
Okay.
I do, and it's something I didn't bring up because I was going to wait till the podcast. When I saw your picks for this fight, I was like, is he for real? Does he really think that Glover Teixeira and Anthony Rumble Johnson, two of the biggest, baddest 205ers, heavy-handed 205ers, are going to go the distance? Is he out of his mind? I explain, please. I don't know where that's coming from.
No, that's good. And as soon as it happened, I thought the same thing. What I was thinking is that I thought Rumble was gonna maybe flip the script and wrestle a little bit. I thought both guys have good chins, so they were gonna land a couple on each other, and it might go to decision. That was not something I should have done. I think what happened was as soon as I was done writing for their strengths and weaknesses, I said, man, I really don't know who to pick here. So I'm just going to go Johnson by decision. That's why I did that. I got too smart.
It was too safe.
On that.
Way too safe.
Yeah, I got too smart and too safe on that pick. Now, I don't think many people thought Johnson was going to knock him out like in 15 seconds, though your pick was round one, and you did great on the picks this time for sure. I'm just happy that Anthony Rumble Johnson got this knockout, this win. I love Glover Teixeira. It would have been nice to see someone else fight Daniel Cormier because Johnson just fought him a couple fights ago. But you and we love Johnson. So.
Yeah, I think this is a different Johnson. I really do. Since their last fight, and that wasn't too long ago. I think Johnson in that last fight, I think maybe there was a combination of it being a really big fight, and just him not really recognizing.
Too big for the moment?
Yeah, exactly. I think that it was too big for the moment, and Johnson now is just on this killer-like instinct, and he's just coming straight for that belt, and he's going to take it, man. I see him knocking out anybody in his way right now.
Yeah, just a quick recap. It'll be quick because it wasn't a very long fight. Just a quick uppercut by Johnson after they trade for a few seconds. Glover goes down, and Johnson lands two hammer fists before the ref can stop it in round one. Johnson was a class act on the mic saying they didn't need shenanigans to hype up the fight of the knockouts. They just get in there and do it. And I also thought it was great that he kind of checks the fans that were booing Daniel Cormier.
Yep.
It's what I love about Johnson. Just to go back to the fight, Glover's been in a lot of. He's 36 years old. He's been in a lot of fights, but I don't think he's been in a lot of wars, at least in the octagon, Jay. So I don't think it was the chin is going away or anything like that. I think it's just Johnson's power.
Yep. You're exactly right. I was going to say the same thing. This is a testament to Anthony's power in his hands. I know I've probably mentioned this on the podcast before, but you remember the day we met Anthony Johnson back in WEC? It was like 49 or so. I don't know. It was years ago.
Coming up the steps?
He was coming up the steps. He ran right by us, and you said, "Hey, that's Anthony Rumble Johnson." So I'm sitting on the outside of you, and I go, "Hey, Anthony." And he stops and he turns around, he looks at us, and we're like, we call you, we said you should change your name from Rumble to the Future because we call you the future of this sport. And he laughed and smiled and said he liked that, and then he went on his way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still remember that, and this was a much smaller Anthony Johnson back then.
Yeah, as a welterweight, Anthony Johnson.
Yeah. And I know he had a lot of trouble getting down to that weight, so he was a pretty big guy back then, but he was nothing like he is today.
And
I don't think
the guy is just as approachable now,
Yeah.
Which is great. I've met him 3 or 4 times since, at not just at Fankovich, it's just hanging out outside the venues of fights for, he's going to be watching, maybe some of his teammates fight, or he's just there for the fights.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, that's why my voice is shot, because I was screaming so much when he knocked him out. It was just crazy. And because, it was just an amazing, it wasn't quite Conor McGregor knocking out Jose Aldo, but it was
close.
Close.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking like 15, 20 seconds, for this fight, but I did know this would end quickly. That's my thoughts anyway on this fight.
Yeah.
I thought that when I made my pick, I really thought about these two, and I said, you know what, Johnson's going to KO this guy, because we've seen Johnson in the past, when he gets out of that first round, he tends to slow down. Yeah. And when he starts fast. So I thought, because of Teixeira's age and everything, I thought that maybe, his chin might be suspect, but no, it's not suspect. Anthony Johnson just has some heavy, heavy hands. So I saw this fight going pretty much this way. And I'm pretty proud of my picks tonight, actually. I got all of them except for the main card, the main fight. And that's just because
you should have got that one, though. I mean, you basically
we should have got it. We should have got it.
You basically got like an A-, bro. I mean, there's like because I'm giving you the Diaz win, even though like you thought it was going to be a submission. A sub, and I think the round was different. Spoiler alert: the round was different with Cowboy. Mm-hmm. But dude, you got like an A-, man.
Yeah.
Go home. Put that paper, that A- on the refrigerator with "You're a Star" magnet on top of it.
No, I want you to draw a star on it and a happy face, and I want you to dot those eyes, and anyway. I
will.
So So
what's there left? Well, there's a lot to talk about, I guess. Though I mean,
so next, Teixeira, as we know, goes to the back of the line at 205, but now this fight here, is this now getting him the fight with Daniel Cormier?
Well, it should. I think so. The talk though after the broadcast, well, not after the broadcast, excuse me, after the main event was over, was what's going on with John Jones? Will he be back soon? Like within 6 months? And I still want to see that fight. I still want to see. I'd rather see Johnson fight Jones, because that's the only guy that Jones hasn't fought yet. That is a great fighter. But if he doesn't fight Jones, then he should fight Daniel Cormier. I'm still going to stick with my pick with Cormier. I still think it's going to go probably the same as it did before. I still think that Cormier could still take the same punch that he took in their first fight and come back and
I don't.
Well, no, I know you said that, but I mean, like, and I think it'll still be the same. That's part of why, by the way, I picked Glover. No, sorry, didn't pick Glover, but said Glover that it might go to a decision, because I thought maybe Glover would be able to use some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he didn't do that. So I'm excited to see Rumble fight either DC or Jones. Who would you rather fight? I know you've been picking. Sorry, Jay, you've been picking Johnson to beat Jones forever.
Yeah,
so you can have that. I mean, that would come to fruition.
I would like. Yeah, it's inevitable that John Jones will make a comeback someday, but we don't know if that's 6 months from now or 10 months, 12 months. We don't know. But whenever he does come back, I'm hoping that by that point we'll already have seen a Cormier Johnson fight and Johnson holding the belt at that time. That's what I'm hoping for.
So even though he gets 6 months, Jones gets 6 months, and he gets a month already served, because it's been about a month, I'd say.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait 4 more months to see him fight. You don't want to wait 4 more months to see him fight. I
don't want to see. No, I don't want to see him fight Cormier, and that's what would happen. That's what would happen. You know, if Jones comes back, they're going to let him fight against Daniel Cormier.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's what's going to happen.
I don't want to see that fight again. I don't ever want to see that fight again. I know we know what's going to happen every time.
Yeah. Yeah, no matter. Yeah, I was putting that into the mix because I thought it's possible that he might fight, that Rumble might have to fight Jones. But yeah, if Jones comes back, they're gonna for sure make that Daniel Cormier fight.
Here's what I say: you've got a Madison Square Garden fight coming up in November. Why don't you have Johnson versus Cormier there? Johnson is fresh. This guy just knocked a guy out so fast that he's not hurt at all. So. November, make that fight. They could stack this card up so much that this would be bigger than 200, 202. I mean, it would be amazing. There's so many fights that can happen in November.
I think that's what they're doing too. You know why? Because I was looking at the list of fights that are already ready to go for the future for the rest of this year, and there's some nice fights. Don't get me wrong, but there's no cards that have made me go, okay, this is the card for the quarter of the year or whatever. 202 was a big card, 200 was a big card, 196, and some cards obviously before that. But after this fight card of 202, we have good cards but not great cards, and I think they're waiting for New York, and that could be one of the fights.
Yeah, and we're only talking 3 months away, so I mean, you can't wait for Jones at this point for November anyway. He's out for that.
Yeah.
So. Cormier versus Johnson.
And I'll go Teixeira, even though they like to do losses versus losses and winner versus winners. I'd like to see Cormier. Excuse me, not Cormier. I'd like to see Gustafsson fight Teixeira. I think that would be a great 205 battle we haven't seen yet. Yeah. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I think Teixeira will definitely do better against Gustafsson. Not saying he'd win, but he'd do better because he's got great jiu-jitsu just like Gustafsson. Gustafsson's got decent hands, but the strength of Teixeira might overpower Gustafsson. So
yeah, just like Anthony Johnson did, he brutally destroyed Gustafsson in that fight.
He made him look so human. It was unbelievable. Because up until that point, we've known Gustafsson to be, just a bad dude. A great guy in the octagon.
Well, he's took two of the best 205ers the distance in close fights in Jones and Daniel Cormier. Yeah. And it arguably could have won both. Jay, I believe you think he beat Jones.
Yeah, I think he beat him that close fight there. Yeah. But it is what it is. I know Jones had excuses back then, and it is what it is.
He said he took him lightly. I don't know why you would take Alexander Gustafsson lightly.
I don't know why anybody would take anybody lightly in this sport. You can't do that.
Well, what I was talking about the most during that lead up is, Gustafsson is actually the first fighter that for Jones that was his size and length and in striking capability, and that came up, and Jones got the win. I did think Jones won that fight close, but either way, man, I still think it's going to be close again if they were to fight. But hey, man, I mean, we had some other fights, obviously.
Yeah, Mike, you know what wasn't very close?
What's that?
The fight that we saw, Cowboy Cerrone versus Rick Story. This fight wasn't very close at all.
Yeah, it was a slow burn though. It did go 2 rounds, but
but it came to a head in a way that it was just amazing. That man, Cowboy Cerrone, Mike, just hit the way he puts combinations together.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing. It's just so amazing, and what he did to Story. I mean, talk about it, Mike, because it was just awesome.
So I wrote when I was making the picks that something about Donald Cerrone is that his kicks are great, but they set up his combinations with his hands, and he was doing that today. Also, his wrestling is underrated. He surprises you. Surprise Story here in this fight. Great off his back. Didn't sub him off his back, but was going for omoplatas. Quick recap. I mean, both men with takedowns in the first round. Story had more time, but Cerrone's attacks off his back were better, and he's better on the feet. So it was kind of close, in my opinion. But Cowboy won that round. But you could see, that that it was going to be going Cowboys' way in the next
Yeah.
round. And sure enough, striking was just too much for Story. Body punches, then a head kick to Story, and Cowboy. I mean, he finished with a knee to the body and punches, and then I mean he calls out Alvarez, which he
Yeah.
wants. And this is something. This is the meat. I think one of the meats of the podcast we're going to have here that we can really sink our teeth into. Well, before I go, Jay, you want to talk about? I just kind of gave the what happened. You want to riff on that?
I definitely have to.
Yeah.
In the first round, the reason why I say it wasn't really close is because of the striking. The striking of Cowboy was just on another level compared to Story. Story had nothing for him when it came to striking. It's just pinpoint accuracy with Cowboy. And in that second round, when he dropped Story with, I think it was a right hook to the head, then a body punch, and then as he was falling over, he kicks him right in the face. It was just a thing of beauty.
It was a knee, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just so amazing. Anyway, and to get into what you're talking about with him calling out Eddie Alvarez, I really scratched my head there because I was like, Cowboy, we are seeing a guy in you that we haven't seen before. You are just showing, well, we've seen spurts of this Cowboy before at 155, but we're seeing all of the good that Cowboy was at 155. We're seeing that all the time at 170. It's like, this is where he belongs.
You know, and I'm going to say he looks even better.
He does.
Because I know it's earlier. It's early. It's only been 3 fights. But the guy has looked great in the WEC and then even in the UFC at 155. And now he's 3-0. And I realized his first fight against Oliveira, I believe was his name, the other Brazilian Cowboy, his first fight. That was a short notice fight. Really not that big of a deal, I guess. But then he fights Patrick Cote, who is one of the most gamed fighters.
Yep.
Guy has power. He's a good fighter. Was on a run at that point. Starches him, starches him. If you guys can remember that fight, and now he takes out Rick Story, who was ranked above him, ranked number 9 or 8, a top 10 guy, and
who by the way, Mike, is a great wrestler and a very good striker. And I thought for sure that Rick Story would be able to take him down and just use, that heavy size he's got, because he's kind of stocky. And, I thought that he'd be able to, hurt Cowboy on the ground at least, some elbows, something. But that didn't happen. Cowboy had none of it when he was on top of him. Like you said, he was using great defense and great, attacks. He was attacking off his back, trying for the omoplata and all that, triangles. He was trying everything. And, Cowboy just looks so good at 170. I don't want to see him go back to 155. That's how good he is.
Yeah, just a real quick to riff on what you were saying is that I thought when Story took him down, I said, okay, this is the first takedown. If he gets, he can win this fight with a takedown in 2 rounds as long as he can be heavy on him, like you said.
Yep.
And it didn't happen. And that was huge, bro. I agree. That was huge. Now, what I think is crazy is that I was listening to some interviews. I'm not sure if it was UFC Unfiltered or if it was one of the Sherdog shows, but he said that he wanted to go back to 155, and this was like 2 or 3 days before this fight. And man, you already said it. I'm just kind of like reiterating what you're saying. I don't understand it. But now I didn't understand it, but now I do. I think he is just wanting this fight with Alvarez, even though he doesn't deserve it, only because he hasn't got a win yet at 155 since losing. Yeah. He beat Eddie Alvarez. He beat him good when they fought, but I don't know.
It looks to Cowboy like this is his easy in to getting that belt at 155.
Yeah.
That's what he's thinking. And you know what? He probably would beat Eddie Alvarez again. I would pick Cowboy at this point. I would. But for me, just the level of fighter we're getting in Cowboy Cerrone at 170, I think he just needs to stay at 170. His size looks good. His speed looks good at that. Compared to everybody else he's been fighting, he's a lot faster. His combinations have been hitting.
Yeah.
I just think he needs to stay. I think this
Well,
is
who
where
do
he
you?
belongs.
Let's do a pop quiz on ourselves because I don't. When I'm watching the shows, I'm obviously writing down some notes here. Just in case people are listening and didn't buy the pay per view or whatever. But I didn't think really about who he should fight next at 170. He steadily went from somebody who had fought at 170, but mostly at 155. Then he beats a really good game guy at 170 in Cote. And then he just beats a lower top 10 guy at 170. We've already talked that he could beat Robbie Lawler possibly. That was when Lawler had the belt. He's never been super great against wrestlers, but he still, is good against them. So, how far he can go, I still think he can go for a title at 170. I'm trying to think of who he should fight next. Do you have an idea of who you think you'd like to see him fight next? Because,
No
there's so much
names.
going on right now at welterweight.
Yeah. I would. You know what? I would love to see a Carlos Condit fight with him.
Yeah.
Just because I think their styles are so similar. They're both great off their back. They're both great standing and trading.
Oh yeah, they're basically the same fighter. Only in the WC, only one was welterweight, one was lightweight. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
We're gonna see if Condit can get past Maya and what Condit wants to do from there. But I'll tell you what, man, that'd be one of the baddest fights you'd ever see in your life for sure.
Hey, I thought of something based off something I said on the last podcast since you brought it up. Damian Maya. I said that Carlos Condit would be going back to school and he'd be wearing a backpack and his name was Damian Maya. Well, I was thinking Damian Maya backpacks. and the straps would be his arms and legs around you. I think it would be a hilarious backpack for kids to wear this school year.
I don't share Jay's sentiment on this, but I laugh because I see it. I can see it plainly in my mind. I have a good imagination, and I see his head smiling.
Yeah,
sometimes,
exactly.
And then sometimes being like just straight face doing nothing. Because when he's on your back, sometimes he's just it doesn't look like much is happening. But
he's going
contemplating.
He's going to be smiling on this backpack, but he's going to be giving your kids a Damian Maya hug. Okay. But anyway, I just thought of that real quick. I don't know why that popped in my mind, but anytime I think of Damian Maya now, it's like backpacks. I don't know. But we'll see what's going to happen. I think Carlos Condit, as good as he is, man, Damian Maya is just incredible.
Well, we'll talk about that later on.
Definitely. We got some fights to talk about here. Let's go ahead and go to the next fight, Mike, because Cowboy Cerrone. Well, actually, so we discussed Cowboy Cerrone. We both feel that he's best at 170, but you feel that going down to 155 for this belt is the right thing or wrong?
Well, no. I think it should stay at 170. But what I was saying is that, and you kind of echoed it as well, is that he feels this is the easy way to get a title shot.
Yeah.
And it's if you're when you've got Tyron Woodley calling out Nick Diaz, and you've got all these other people calling out other people for money fights, and we just had the second fight of now probably 3 of the featherweight champ fighting the number 4 lightweight contender at welterweight. Yeah. This is going to be something that fighters are going to talk about. But
I think that's Conor McGregor's fault too. I think Conor McGregor is the one that started this whole thing where I could call out anybody in any weight class because I'm the baddest dude alive, and now everybody seems to be on that same bandwagon. And it's like, no, you guys need to shut up and please do what you're told. You got people in the game like Joe Silva that's putting together fights. Let them do their job.
Yeah, in an alternate dimension, in Earth 2, if you want to call it that, Rafael dos Anjos didn't hurt his foot, and he actually fought Conor McGregor at 155. Yeah. I'll let you guys decide who won that fight, but we wouldn't be where we are now if he wouldn't have got hurt.
Yeah.
The final 2 fights on the card. I know we don't talk too much about the whole main card if the fighters aren't huge, but Jay, I just want to touch on these 2 fights because they were pretty good fights, and you have some guys that might be on the come up. Kicking off the card was Tim Means versus Sanaa Hamasi. Tim Means destroyed Sabah Hamasi in round 2 with knees and elbows, both in the clinch and in the middle of the cage. I mean, Tim Means is I want to say he's back because he He was gone for a while. His long and lanky reach at 170 is going to give guys problems, and I think he showed that. Even though Hamasi, to be honest, it was his UFC debut. So good, big ups to Tim Means. And the other fight, Mike Perry versus Hyun Gyu Lim. Mike Perry was a huge debut.
Yep.
He got TKO on Lim in round 2. It's kind of a true David versus Goliath, as Lim was 6'3", and he's at 170 at 6'3", which is just crazy. And for you old school guys out there, Mike Perry reminds me of the New York badass Phil Baroni. Just doesn't take any crap and just knocks people up.
Mike Perry looks like the bigger version of Cody Garbrandt. That's what he looks like to me.
Oh, I can see a little of that.
Yep. He looks like Cody Garbrandt to me. He just looks like his bigger brother. Which, by the way, he looked a lot like Cody Garbrandt tonight, taking out that 6'3" Lim. I don't know Lim, but he was game and he was doing his thing. But Perry he was just a better fighter.
Yeah, Lim coming in, we had won like 3 in a row or something like that, and I wasn't too big on Lim either. So for Perry to come in and get that win by knockout in his debut is huge. And if you guys didn't see the weigh-ins was really weird with Perry. He went to go shake Lim's hand, and then he pulled it away and made some sort of, I don't know, not a Street Fighter fireball, but some weird karate stance, and yelled at him like they were about to, here comes the big boss. Let's get it on. I don't know. It was really odd.
Yeah. One thing I did notice, and they touched on it during the broadcast tonight, speaking of the weigh-ins, is the fact that now that they weigh in the mornings, that they're able to come to the weigh-ins and be hydrated, and they don't look emaciated on the stage.
Yeah. If you go to our Facebook page, and that's one of the last things I posted. It's the UFC Embedded episode 6, and if you haven't seen the Embedded series, it's always on UFC.com, but they also show it on Facebook, which is where I pulled it from. And it's a great series, about between 6 and 8 minutes every day from Monday through Saturday. They kind of go with all the main fighters of that card and see what they're doing. And this one finally showed what it's like for those early weigh-ins. We didn't get just snapshots or a little discussion. We actually saw what it looked like, what they eat after, how they live, how they conduct life after it. It was great. I thought it was a really good, eye-opening experience. I
agree, and I like the fact that what I was saying about the weigh-ins is that now you get the fighters up there. They're more animated. They're more themselves than when they were just putting them up there dehydrated and they looked like shells of themselves.
Yeah. They can eat differently now. Yeah. They're drinking differently now because of the early weigh-in.
Yeah. So all that's cool, but Perry looked great tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing his future fights now. But one fight I do want to touch on is the Cody Garbrandt fight, Mike.
Oh, brother, we got, sometimes you say this to me, we're not touching on it, man. We're talking, we're giving some full shrift to this one.
Yes, we are.
Even though it didn't last very long.
No. And it was against a guy that we knew was going to go out in the first round. Unfortunately, we picked this when we first heard about it. When we first heard this fight was put together, Mizugaki versus Cody Garbrandt, you and I both were like, poor Mizzy.
Oh yeah, it was a fight that I called that might happen, but it was for sure it went the way I thought it was. Jay, I just wanna do my kind of a grandstanding here. Why don't you just talk a second while I look up what I wrote about this fight, and right. just so I can tell the audience what I wrote. Okay,
well, it's of course Cody Garbrandt won the fight in the first round, knocking out Mizugaki, and man, it just looked like Garbrandt was headhunting, just looking for that head and just throwing punches and doing what Garbrandt does best. And it's not like he just wings punches. This guy is very accurate. He's a great boxer, utilizes boxing like he's an amazing boxer for the sport.
And it's I found what I was looking for. And what I find also amazing is that his accuracy as guys are falling.
Oh, yeah.
Is just amazing, and he was fine with taking shots from Mizugaki to get in there to knock him out. Because the thing with Mizugaki is that he's a great technical boxer, but he doesn't have a lot of power. So I think he knew that. But here's what I wrote. And guys, you know me on Facebook if you're reading this stuff, or just from the podcast, that I don't get too overcompensated on both fighters. But here's what I wrote for Cody No Love Garbrandt versus Takeya Mizugaki. I don't usually make fight picks easy, as MMA is a confounding sport, sometimes with different ways to win, styles versus styles, camp changes, long-time injuries, and fading skills. Sometimes it looks like a fighter may have gotten old overnight. Sometimes the fighter doesn't fight to their strengths, or so we say. However, this is not one of those times. This one is easy, folks. For as solid and stalwart Takeya Mizugaki has been over the years, he is going to get knocked out, and probably brutally, by Cody Garbrandt. It's true that Mizugaki is a tough guy and a gamer and has great technical boxing, all of which has kept him in the bantamweight top 10 for many years. But the arrival of Garbrandt cannot be denied. Garbrandt has 8 KO TKOs in 9 fights, is young, and shows no sign of slowing. Not to mention that if Dominic Cruz could knock out Mizugaki, then you know Garbrandt will.
Yep. Good. Yep. Agree. Here's the thing about this fight, though. I really thought that this Garbrandt-Mizugaki fight should have been on the main card instead of Lim versus Perry. I think Lim versus Perry. Well, Tim Means has been around, though, so I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
But Lim versus Perry, there was no excuse for this. I think that should have been the headliner of. But then again, I understand they want a headliner with some name there. So maybe put Means and Hamasi there, just so you have Means, somebody that's known.
I think you're on the right track, and I do believe that if they're going to do what they've been doing, like we've talked about with Fight Pass, and they've been doing it more often. They did this with the Fox Sports 1 prelims before Fight Pass, is they always get a star to kick it off. And it would have to be Garbrandt. I think maybe they could have picked, Cowboy versus Rick Story instead.
No, you don't want to do that to Cowboy.
I mean, with Garbrandt, he doesn't have as much eyeballs compared to Cowboy, so I think they went with Garbrandt, especially because they knew he was going to destroy Mizugaki.
Yeah. But, Garbrandt, though, Mike, he's on the fast track to getting that belt. Or at least fighting for it, I should say.
I'm fine with him. I'm trying to think right now, so if there's some dead silence about who would be above Garbrandt to fight. It's really just Brian Caraway is the only guy who's on this kind of run. So I think you can give Garbrandt to Cruz, and I don't know if I talked about this on the last podcast or just wrote about it or just in passing with other fans. If Cruz is going to get a win against Garbrandt, he better do it now. He better do it this early, because
I don't think Cruz beats Garbrandt.
To me, it's shades of what's that?
I don't think Cruz would beat Garbrandt.
Okay, so Well, I think that Cruz would beat Garbrandt today. And what I'm trying to get at is that, and I'm gonna go a little old here and say Matt Hughes versus George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre it was kind of too big of a moment the first time he fought Matt Hughes, and Matt Hughes beat him in the first round by submission. And after that, though, I mean, he had Matt Hughes' number, and that's how I look at Garbrandt and Cruz. I think that it's going to be too early, like it was too early for GSP, too early for Garbrandt to get the win against Cruz. But after that, I think he destroys Cruz the next 2 times. Now, you're saying you think he beats Cruz this time.
Yeah, and here's why. I think Garbrandt is much more heavy-handed than Cruz, and I think in order for Cruz to beat Garbrandt, because he's not going to knock him out, Mike. Cruz doesn't have knockout power like that. I don't think he knocks out Garbrandt. Cruz usually, likes to touch you and jump out of the way and do his whole monkey style. That's
why I pick him to win, Jay.
Okay. I don't think he gets to run away from Garbrandt every time. I think if Garbrandt touches him even once, it could be lights out for Cruz. I
agree with that. I just don't see it. I'm not saying that you're wrong, because it's possible.
Yeah, and it's possible that he can get away, but I don't see it. I think that he gets touched by Garbrandt, and Garbrandt's going to hurt him. So that's the way I see it anyway.
I will say this on your side of the fence is that if Garbrandt does land and stagger him, it's over.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
But he's going to have to, it's not like when we were calling Cruz versus Faber, if Faber can get that punch and hurt him and then maybe get his back and finish him, and that's the way he would be able to finish Cruz. No, we're talking about if Garbrandt actually lands and wobbles him, I'll add the wobble. Then I'm on your side for sure.
Yeah, because
he's deadly. He's deadly.
Between Garbrandt and Faber, it's like night and day. We're talking, Barney versus the Terminator. And
I don't know about that.
It's not. I'm saying that Faber doesn't hit nearly as hard as Garbrandt.
Well, okay, but he still has power. He knocks a lot of guys down. But
I don't see him.
Is there a different level there for sure? I just don't know if it's.
I think there's several levels different when it comes to the punching power. And yes, I am being extreme with using Barney versus the Terminator, but it's just whatever it came to my head.
There's a difference for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, but Garbrandt's he's good, man. The guy's good, very accurate, very powerful. I can't wait to see him fight next. And
he has no weakness, Jay. He has no weakness because he's great. He's a great wrestler. He uses it to stop the takedowns. He's like Chuck Liddell was back in the day. He's an exciting guy. He's a guy that he's the future, man.
And his chin has been tested. He's been hit, and he's taken some punches. Not a lot, but he's been hit.
Yeah, the news something that was news to me was either on the pre-show or maybe before in between the fights. Cruz was saying that Garbrandt had some concussion problems, so he took a year off or something like that.
Yeah, from boxing, I believe. That's
interesting. Yeah. That's something I didn't know.
But then the thing with boxing is you're always getting punched in the head. Always. That's guys are always punching for the head. So because I know you watch, you're a former boxing watcher. Fan,
I'm not.
Yeah.
So you don't think that matters?
No. MMA and boxing are just so different. It's so different. And it does matter if there was big concussion problems with him, but we don't know the extent of that because all it was a blurb by Cruz saying that, he had concussion or concussion issue back when he was boxing. And by the way, he was 30-1 when he boxed.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Because when I hear concussions, I always think of football because that's my other sport.
Any head trauma can cause concussions. So in MMA, they can get concussions as well. So that's always an issue. But in boxing, it's a much bigger problem because you got two guys standing toe to toe, just punching each other in the face over and over.
Oh yeah, and they get knocked down. You count them. They get back up. It's not. There's no grappling involved.
With MMA, you've got the grappling. You've got the kicks to the legs. You've got the kicks to the body. You got all kinds of different stuff going on. So,
do you mind if I segue to the final fight we'll talk about with Neil Magny versus Lorenz Larkin?
Yes, go ahead. Talk about the fight, Mike.
Yeah, so Larkin, he destroyed Neil Magny in round 1 with oblique kicks to the body, actually knocking him down twice, and with leg kicks that destroyed Magny's front leg as well. Magny got to the ground once, only to have Larkin get up, and then in a second takedown attempt against the fence, Larkin just destroyed him with the elbows for a TKO. I mean, it was crazy because, again, Magny was ranked number 7, and Larkin was unranked. Magny, on a four fight win streak, 11 fights, he had won 10, and Larkin just came in and just blew his doors. Larkin's a free agent now. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or Magny had an off night. I don't know. It was crazy. That's all I can tell you.
I don't know, but we're talking about a guy in Lorenz Larkin that was beat by Costas Philippou, Brad Tavares, and Derek Brunson. Now, Derek Brunson is coming to his own, so to speak, lately, but Costas Philippou, really. But his last fight, he won against George Masvidal. So he got a split decision win there.
Yeah, that was a close fight.
But, man, you would think, though, you would think that Neil Magny is better than that. He's looked a lot better than that. So I would have never guessed that he would lose this badly.
Yeah, it was a draw dropper for me. I kept thinking to myself the Hector Lombard fight where Magny came back from getting knocked around, and he ended up finishing Lombard in the third, I believe. But no, he couldn't come back. The leg kicks were just crazy, man. The oblique kicks, knocked him down twice. And the leg kicks were just destroying his front leg. It hobbled him so bad. It was a different type of hurt, from Lombard. Lombard, clocked him a bunch of times to the body and to the head, But when your legs give way, you just can't fight anymore. And, good for Larkin. Good for him for coming in on, he's like Masvidal. It's funny you brought up Masvidal. He's always been a guy that's, it's an exciting fighter to watch, a middle of the road guy, not a top 10 guy, but a guy that's going to be on really your Fox Sports 1 fight night cards or prelims like he was this time. Where Magny goes right here from now, I don't know, but I think he's still in the top 10, and I still think he still has it. I think it was just one of those, one of those things.
Yeah, and for Lorenz Larkin, he hasn't really looked that great until tonight, really. I mean, this was his real coming out party, so to speak.
And that was on the Fox Sport. That was on the Fight Pass prelims, which was not good for either of the guys in my opinion. But
yeah,
it's what it is. What it is. This is what they're doing now.
But hey, he's somebody else to look out for in that division, and who knows what we'll see with Lorenz Larkin next. He beat a guy who was in the top 10, so he's got to be ranked, right? He's got to be in the top 10 or maybe 11.
Yeah. I would certainly put him. I don't have the top 10 in front of me, but I agree he's going to be in the top 10, at least at number 10. You don't beat a guy like Magny who's been on the run he was on and not
break in,
not get in there.
Yeah. I agree with that. He should be top 10. But yeah, for Larkin, of course he's not going to be fighting on the road to that belt quite yet. He's got some many fights ahead of him before then. But it'd be fun to watch him fight some of the guys, hovering around 10, 8, 9.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Mike. Let's go ahead and get into a fight that happened, in the past now, because we're going to talk about, we're going to recap UFC Fight Night 92, Mike. So this happened, I think, last weekend?
Yeah.
It was last weekend. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Of course, it was Alex Caceres in the main event, fighting Rodriguez. Not too familiar with Rodriguez, Mike, but we all know Alex Caceres from the Tough Ultimate Fighter.
Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy, exactly. So anyway, Mike, if you want to start off this recap, go ahead and start off with this fight.
Yeah, Yair Rodriguez, he won Tough Latin America, the Tough Latin America show. Real flashy guy, one of those guys that, like Alex Caceres, fights in an unorthodox style, not afraid to throw weird, crazy kicks or combinations, that kind of thing. Scorecard was a split decision for Rodriguez. It was a 46-49, 48-47, 48-47. I had Rodriguez, and it wasn't a split decision. It wasn't close.
Yeah, I had it too.
It was an exciting and flashy fight, solely Rodriguez. But you know what? A top 10 and for sure a top 5 fighter would have took both these guys out. For as exciting and fun it was to watch. And that's why, this was the main event. Based off of who else was there, I don't think this should have been a main event, even for a fight night. But it was fun to watch, Jay. It was junk food, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that's a good way. That is a great analogy there. That's exactly what it was. It was like, having that candy bar in the middle of the night. You're not supposed to have it, but, it's fun, but it's still a candy bar. It's not all that great. So, yeah, this fight, Mike, I when I watched it, first when I heard about this fight being the main event, I was very down on it from the start. Not because I can't, not because I can't stand either of these guys or anything, but it's just that it's not main event material. No matter how you spin this, it's just not.
Yeah, this is co-main event material in my opinion for a
Maybe.
fight night. Well, because Yair Rodriguez was undefeated or close to it. He's still a great up and coming guy, and Alex Caceres has gotten better since he's gotten to the MMA lab. Now that he's got an actual real camp with him, but as a co-main event, maybe I feel
Maybe,
you, but not as a main event.
But this fight, and it's funny that you said that both these guys would get beat by any top 5 guy. It's 100% correct there in that assessment, Mike, because these two guys, that's the one thing that I came away with. After I watched the fight, I go, they left so many holes open for so many things that so many other guys are doing that these guys would just get crushed by, these top 5 guys. It wasn't even funny. And then I mentioned that on the Facebook. We both mentioned that on the Facebook, and I was like, I'm glad we see eye to eye on that because it's exactly what I saw when I watched this fight. It was fun, but it was.
And both these guys were tough guys in this fight. They both landed some shots and took some shots. It went to a decision. I would have liked to have had Rodriguez finish Caceres, not because I'm against Caceres, but because it allows another star to continue to grow. And he got the decision, and it shouldn't have been a split. But it kind of, it's one of those things kind of like the Conor McGregor decision. Like, he got the win, but he didn't prove much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even if you thought he won the fight.
For me, what I really have a problem with fights like this, and here's where the MMA snob in me is going to come out, Mike. I don't like fights like this because it puts a different mentality into people's minds on mixed martial arts. It makes people think that this is what mixed martial arts should be, and this is the exact opposite of what mixed martial arts should be, in my opinion. I think mixed martial arts is smart, calculated. It's exciting. There's mind games being played there. There is, a total, it's hard to explain, but this is not it. This is just 2 guys just throwing everything, throwing caution to the wind, throwing every kick in the book, punches, just these flashy things. It was like watching a movie almost. Like, it was cheap. And this is not mixed martial arts.
To add to you, it was like with the Tough One finale with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner. It wasn't as flashy, but suddenly everybody was watching this show where these guys are just throwing punches and kicks and, oh, this is great. And then you watch the next pay-per-view, if you loved that, and you're like, what is this? They're not all just going, well, I want to censor myself, but, they're not just going, who's talking robots, I'll say that. Because it is a different sport, and I agree. That's, to me, it reminded me of that of that tough finale.
It reminded me of that, but that was so much better. And I think it was because of the time and where mixed martial arts was at that time. They weren't as big as they got after that fight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of put them on the map, and had people eyeballing the sport. Whereas this now, I think we've moved past this. We've moved past that type of fighting. And this was just like, it's just not good. I don't want to see this kind of mixed martial arts. It's just not for me. As fun as it was, it's just not my cup of tea.
Well, we'll see how these guys get now, where they go from here. Who Rodriguez gets, who Caceres gets, especially Rodriguez. I'm not sure. Featherweight division is a pretty solid division, but I'm not sure. I think they're going to continue to give Rodriguez an easy schedule. 2 other fights on the night: Court McGee versus Dominique Steele. I should say 2 other big fights. And that was the Fox Sports 1 prelim. Court McGee 30-27, 29-28, 29-28 for unanimous decision. It was a close fight, but McGee won by takedowns and control. And really quickly, since not much happened in these 2 fights, Jay, and then of course talk about it. Cub Swanson versus Tatsuya Kawajiri. 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. Swanson by unanimous decision. Swanson was just better everywhere. Cub was just better everywhere. It was one-sided fight. And what'd you think about those fights?
I thought that the right winner won in both these fights. I think that it was, good in that respect. The fights were okay. They weren't fantastic. This whole card wasn't very good, to be honest.
Right.
But it was MMA. It was something to watch.
This was a card for the people who said the UFC is being, pulled too thin with too many cards.
Yes.
This is like, basically proof for them if they want to use it.
Yep. This is definitely that. This was a card that should have never been put together this way, because there was a lot of, this is a filler, Yeah. You have that album that, there might be 3 or 4 great songs on, but then there's 10 other songs that are complete crap. Those are called filler songs. Yeah. This is the filler MMA card.
Yeah.
And I don't need these kind of cards. If there's going to be a long stretch where there's no UFC, that's fine with me, as long as we get a good product when we do get it. This is not a good representation for the UFC all the way around. But
and what's crazy was that the fight with Cub Swanson, that was the Fight Pass prelim.
Yep.
I mean, how is that not on the main card? That main card was horrible, and yet they put that down there. If you had like a strong card like we had tonight, I can understand it. But not a card like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're telling people to go out and spend $10 to watch Cub Swanson on the card. I mean, even that is not a big enough draw. So this whole card was just garbage.
Right.
To be blunt, it was garbage. But I'm glad that Court McGee won and Cub Swanson won, because I like those two guys. Cub Swanson, of course, coming out of WEC. My heart will always be with the WEC. WEC was just the MMA organization that I first attached myself to. Even though I watched the UFC long before it became the UFC of today, WEC is really where I started my love for mixed martial arts. And it all started, of course, with Uriah Faber.
Jay, there's that saying that for the Pride fans, Pride never die. You and I are WEC never die.
And I remember you and I defending WEC like nobody's business when people were talking down on WEC, saying they were not as good as the UFC. There's no way any of those guys can come over to the UFC and win a belt. And what happened, Mike? We had
Benson
those
Henderson,
guys.
champ. Anthony Pettis, champ.
Exactly.
Carlos Condit.
Should have been a champ.
Interim champ. Cowboy. Who is he? I don't know. One of the most exciting fighters. One of the best fighters ever to live on this planet.
Yeah. So many guys came from the WEC.
Fought one of the exciting fighters. One of the best commentators. I'm trying to go through even not just who's Jose Aldo, Jay?
Jose Aldo.
Do you know Jose Aldo?
Oh yeah.
Because I do. WEC.
Exactly.
Chad Mendez. Sorry, I could go on forever.
Yeah. The WEC was amazing, guys. If you're just getting into this sport, if you can find old DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever you can get your hands on for the WEC cards,
or Fight Pass, there you go.
Yeah, or Fight Pass. You can watch some of these old cards. I don't know if they're all on there.
Oh, they are. Oh, I'm sorry. All the Zuffa ones, I'm sure, are on there.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are some pre-Zuffa
there's
ones on there,
lot.
but I don't believe all the pre-Zuffa ones are.
But anyway, get Fight Pass so you can watch these WEC cards. It's worth it just for those alone. There were some straight up wars in the WEC, and I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but you know what? There wasn't much to talk about for Fight Night 92, to be honest.
Right? No, that's fine. Jay, I want to say quickly on that is that, we went to, I believe 3 together, the WEC, and you couldn't get a better bang for your buck. And if you guys, didn't go to any of those shows, you missed out on, not floor seating for $50, but like lower seating for
Oh,
$50.
we were right there. It seemed
Yeah,
like
Jay and I watched Aldo,
destroy
in eight
Faber.
seconds destroy Cub Swanson with a knee. We watched all of Uriah Faber's fights,
Yep.
win or lose there. We watched Mark Munoz in one of his first fights in a big league organization.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw a lot of great fights there.
Yeah. I'll always have that, remembering all those fights from the WEC. And it's nice to, be able to go back with Fight Pass or something and watch those or DVDs and stuff like that. But anyway, Mike, we're done with Fight Night 92, guys. We're going to move on. Let's go ahead and get into some news, Mike.
News Corner.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we've got some decent news here. Nothing that's going to, break the typewriter or the computer screen. But, Will Brooks versus Alex Oliveira at Fight Night 96. That's on October 1st. Oliveira is the guy who fought Cowboy in his first welterweight match. Oliveira's 21-5. He's got 13 subs and 6 TKOs. So this is a solid match for Will Brooks, though I think they should have given somebody better to Will Brooks.
Me too. I agree. I think Will Brooks is just going to demolish Oliveira.
I guess this basically tells us that they're going to give Will Brooks the slow treatment. I don't know if it's because
seems that way,
they don't
but
think he's ready or they just want to make sure.
I don't know. I think they're doing what they have to do with Will Brooks right now. I think that the UFC is basically saying, I don't care what you've accomplished in the other organization because they're not as good as us. That's the mentality I'm looking at here. And I think that they're just starting him as if he's some fresh guy starting in the organization. And he's just going through the ranks.
I'm sorry, Jay. Continue.
And he's just going through the ranks. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and Will Brooks, for as dominant as he was, and I think he's a great fighter. He didn't finish a lot of guys in his reign and was let go by Bellator. They decided not to re-sign him. He didn't leave the organization.
Yeah.
Now, part of that had to do with the way he talked bad about Bellator, and some of the things he said were correct, I believe. But anyway, so I think maybe if he would have finished Ross Pearson in his last fight, maybe they would have thought differently. But I think it's just a safe route. A fight next we have here that I'm sure will be a finish. Won't go to the cards. Tony Ferguson versus Rafael dos Anjos at the Tough Latin America 3 finale.
Awesome.
That's on November 5th.
That fight's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sad that Ferguson's not getting a shot. That the title shot that tells me that maybe Nurmagomedov is going to get it. Maybe Cowboy. Now that Cowboy wants it, I doubt that. But Jay, that's one fight, man, that I'm ready for, and it's going to be free, which is great.
I was ready for this fight 6 months ago. I thought that he deserved a title shot, for a while now. And unfortunately, RDA doesn't hold the belt anymore. But, man, I think Tony Ferguson, I think he wins this fight. And then, who knows? This fight may be the precursor to whoever gets the next nod for the belt.
Yeah, I think it is. If Dos Anjos still had the title and Ferguson fought him, I said I would have probably still picked Dos Anjos over Ferguson as much as I love Ferguson. I think Ferguson would have had a great chance to win, and it wouldn't really surprise me if he did beat Dos Anjos. However, now that Dos Anjos has been made human by Alvarez,
yes,
I think that's all Ferguson needed.
Yes,
to get either a decision or to actually maybe finish him in this fight. I know we'll talk about that a couple months from now. This is all just preliminary news, but I think Ferguson has a way better chance than he did before.
Oh, 100%. And I think if he gets past RDA, which I think he should, I think that he gets past Alvarez as well. If Alvarez still holds the belt at that time, because who knows about Khabib? We don't even know if this guy's going to be healthy enough to fight, or who knows what this guy's deal is anymore. I don't. I hate to even speculate on the guy anymore.
Right. Well, they going from a great fight to a fight that's just kind of, or a couple of fights that are kind of, okay, I guess, which would be Cyborg is headlining versus Lena Landsberg and Bigfoot Silva versus Big Country as the co-main event at Fight Night 95. That's going to be on September 24th, so that's coming up in about a month. Landsberg is 6-1 with 4 KO TKOs. It'll be her UFC debut. It again will be at 140. And Jay, I know you're gonna have a little bit to talk about this with Cyborg. But let me just quickly say that I don't want to see Cyborg fighting these fights. The first time, I understood it. I really did. But either you're gonna fight at 145 or you're gonna fight at 135. So either stay in Invicta or drop down to 135 and fight in the UFC.
I agree.
Miss Justino. And then as for Bigfoot Silva versus Big Country, okay.
Yeah, it's a meh fight. And as far as Cyborg goes, I think that you're 100% correct. It's you either fight at 135 or Dana, damn it, if you guys continue to want to bring her over, then make a 145 division already. There is girls out there who would be willing to come and fight at 145. Just do it. Make her happy. And you know what? If Rousey ever comes back, which I still say she's not going to.
Yeah, she's not.
But if she ever did, she's put on a little weight, it seems. So she's ready for 145, it looks like, or even heavier. And no, that's not I'm not really trying to dig on her, but you leave for a while and you gain a little weight and you're not fighting or training much.
Oh, I noticed it in the commercial she had with the thumb wrestle thing.
Yeah, she just looks a little heavier. So yeah. I think she's ready for 145.
I would like to, speaking of that, I would love for her to say, you know what, I'll come back if you guys get a 145 division. Give me a couple of fights and I'll fight Cyborg after that.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll push them into getting the 145 division.
Hey, if anybody can do it, it's Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, exactly. Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey and Cyborg. Both of them could lead that charge, and it'll work.
Yeah. Joe Warren versus Sirwan Kakai. It's the co-main event for Bellator 161. That's at September 16th. So, again, that's a month from now. That's Czech Congo. Tony Johnson is the main event of that one. We've already discussed that back a little bit ago. But Kakai is 12-4 with 6 subs and 4 KO TKOs. Never been finished, so that's pretty strong with his record and his skills. But he's 1-1 in the UFC and 0-1 in Bellator. So they're giving Old Man Warren, as I think we both are starting to call him, in a return bout that, a guy he should be able to win. And honestly, I hope he wins this fight and retires because the last fight, did not really go very well for him. So I just he's been a great fighter for the promotion. And I think he gets this win and goes off into the sunset. And he really becomes one of their Hall of Famers, and should be by winning both the featherweight and bantamweight titles. But that fight against Darian Caldwell in his last fight was just a demolishment.
What's sad is that I'm calling him Old Man Warren, but I'm older than he is. That's sad.
Right. So am I.
But in the fight game, being 40 years old, you shouldn't really be fighting anymore, especially when you had as many wars as Joe Warren has. And his last outing against Darian Caldwell was just terrible for him. After that, I thought he would retire, to be honest, Mike. Whatever happens,
I think he probably decided, I got to go out with a win. I can't go out like that.
Yeah, but whatever happens here, he needs to retire.
Yeah.
He needs to, man. He's given us a lot, great shows, and he's been a great fighter, great commentary too at times.
He had some great comeback wins as well. Some fights that I think it was his win against the current Dantes. I think it was Dantes. Maybe was piecing him up for a while, and then he ended up getting a takedown and finishing the fight.
Best of luck to him though. Hope he wins.
Yeah, getting here to the middle of the news. Melvin Gillard suspended 1 year, and his Bellator 159 win over David Rickles is now a no contest after he failed a urinalysis now this is important here, for a non-performance enhancing banned substance. Jay, is marijuana, is that a non-performance enhancing banned substance?
No, that is actually a performance enhancing
That's what
drug.
I thought. So what do you think? Do you have an idea what it might be?
It's another drug.
So you think it's cocaine? Because he was a cokehead.
No, cocaine is a performance enhancing drug as well. So this is some other kind of drug, maybe some sort of downer or something. But Yeah, he's taken something that's not that doesn't fly with USADA, obviously, but there's something going on there. I don't know
Yeah.
what.
Well, he hadn't beaten anybody in like the last 3 or 4 fights, and before,
But
when
it's
he got let go by the UFC, he had
it's
lost, I don't know, 6 of his last 8 or something like that.
I've never looked. I've never really looked into what substances they've banned outside of the PEDs, and I don't know what non enhancing. I don't know what that is, man.
Yeah,
It's weird.
I just took it from one of the sites I was reading, and because I found it weird because it's not a PED, but it's the first time in a while I've seen urinalysis, so I'm not. I mean, do they just go with blood tests? But they do urinalysis for everything, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
That's weird, man. I don't get that at all, but it is what it is, man. They banned whatever substance this is, and he should have played by the rules, and he didn't, and he got burned.
and he should retire now, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yep.
It's going to be suspended a year. I mean, I always say let these guys retire when they want to, but Gallard had his chance here. Rickles was winning the fight, and then I won't say that Gallard got a lucky elbow off the fence, but he got a strong elbow off the fence and was able to finish Rickles. Finally gets that win, calls out the Paul Daly to fight at 170. Said, I'm not going to fight at 155 anymore. It's too hard. Maybe that's what it was. The performance enhancing banned, non-performance enhancing banned substance.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
that had
know.
something to do with it. I don't know with him and why he's going to 170, but you have your chance, I guess.
Oh, was it maybe something about? Couldn't be anything. No. Go ahead. I was thinking
Well,
about maybe
I read it on SureDog.
Maybe
and
like-
I read it on MMA Junkie. So I read it on 2 different places. And they both used non-performance enhancing banned substance.
Okay, maybe IV.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's what it would be.
Maybe
So-
rehydration. Maybe something like that. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, something I do know for a fact is that's John Dodson and John Lineker are going to fight. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome.
And
Great
they're going to
fight.
headline Fight Night 96
In the Philippines.
on October 1st.
Yep. Oh no, that's not in the Philippines. That's Fight Night 97. Sorry, read it wrong.
Yeah, Fight Night 96. That's a headliner I can get with, man. We're talking about the headliner with Rodriguez and Caceres. This is a great headliner because John Lineker just destroyed Michael McDonald. Both these guys. No, this is Dodson's return to bantamweight.
Yeah.
Just like Benavidez, he was great at flyweight but couldn't beat Demetrius Johnson, so he's decided to come back up. And both these guys were previously flyweights, so they're back at bantamweight, knocking heads. And I'm excited to see this fight, Jay, especially to see how John Dodson looks in his return. And it's not an easy fight against Lineker, so he has one heck of a return fight.
Yeah, not at all. What a welcome back to 135, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
John Dodson, though, he's got the speed over Lineker, that's for sure.
Yeah.
As far as the punching power, though, that definitely goes to Lineker.
Yeah, and I think that even though Michael McDonald, I pegged him to be a smarter guy, I think that John Dodson, especially coming from a great camp like Jackson Winklejohn, I don't think he's going to fall into that, Rock'em Sock'em Robots thing that McDonald did, which is Lineker's strength. I think Dodson is going to win that fight just by, in and out evasion and speed. And, I think he'll take this fight.
Yeah. Well, considering that against Michael McDonald, Lineker, that was his first KO in a while. His last 3 fights before that, he decisioned or submitted his opponent. So,
Yeah.
He's got a lot of decisions under his belt too. So he doesn't knock out everybody, that's for sure. But he's got heavy hands. But against a guy like John Dodson, like I said, he's fast. I think he could get away from him.
Yeah, you talked about the Philippines a little about a minute or two ago.
Yeah.
Yep, Fight Night 97's in the Philippines. The return to the Philippines. BJ Penn now is going to fight Ricardo Lamas in the main event. BJ Penn was supposed to fight, I think not Miles Jury. Forget who he's supposed to. The Carney, Nick Lentz. He wanted to fight Nick Lentz, couldn't fight Nick Lentz. So then I think he was going to fight Cole Miller, and then that fell out. And then there was some problems with the law with BJ Penn, but nothing, he was exonerated of it all. So now he can finally fight. There's no law problems, no injuries. He's fighting our pal Ricardo Lamas, Jay. All the crap we give Ricardo Lamas. I think he's going to beat BJ Penn here at 145. What are your thoughts?
Ricardo Lamas is probably going to win this fight, regardless of Ricardo Lamas being the butt of our jokes most of the time with where he belongs in the rankings. I think he beats BJ Penn because this BJ Penn is not the BJ Penn we used to know.
Right.
This isn't. This is a retired, older, much slower BJ Penn, and I really don't want to see him back fighting. I don't. Does BJ really need the money, or do you think he just thinks that coming back to the sport, he honestly thinks that he could make a run again?
Well, I will tell you that
It's like a midlife crisis.
he used to knock guys out lots, and then sometimes he would submit them, but then not anymore. The BJ Penn we used to know. Cut that.
I'm keeping that, Mike. You're stuck now. I understand what you're saying there, and I agree with what you're saying there, Mike. It's 100% correct. He's not the guy we used to know. But BJ Penn he was a bad dude back in the day. One of my favorites, when I was getting back into the sport and especially back into the UFC, BJ Penn was my guy in the UFC. And
he was a lot of guys. I mean, and full disclosure here, I was not a fan of his. A lot of it was because of his rivalry with Matt Hughes, and I found out there's not a rivalry really. I mean, there's a rivalry because there was 3 fights, a rubber match and all that stuff, but they actually, there was never any animosity between them. But if we can
and don't just gloss over that. Tell the fans who told you that. It was his mama. It was BJ Penn's mama.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't sure if I've told you
might
this
have said
story
it
before, but we've been on the air a year now, so maybe some people haven't heard it. So I was at one of the fight conventions, and BJ Penn's mom, she's a sweetheart, man, and she actually runs all his T-shirts and stuff like that, the sales and everything, and everything just scrap, or not just scrap, sorry, but all his stuff. And so I was buying you a shirt, and I was like, do you mind if a Matt Hughes fan buys a BJ Penn shirt? Just kind of a joke, ha ha ha. And then she's like, oh no, they're friends. And I was like, really? Come on, really? She's like, no. Like Matt Hughes goes out there and helps him with wrestling, and BJ goes out there and to Iowa, not Iowa, is Iowa? Maybe it is Iowa.
Yeah, it's Iowa, I believe.
To help him with his striking. And that just, for a guy who had been following the sport, for a long time, but hadn't really at that point been online following it, just hearing people talk in magazines, articles and stuff like that, and everybody falls into a certain camp no matter what sport you're in. If you're a 49er fan, you hate the Raiders. If you're a Yankees fan, you hate the Red Sox, that kind of thing. It blew my mind, man, but it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was a cool story. All right, Mike, what is this UFC 204 main event? Bisping versus Henderson 2. What is this crap?
I don't know, man. It's Henderson's Dan Henderson's going away party. He doesn't really deserve this, of course. He's won what, 6 of his is it 3 of his last 9? He's lost 6 of his last 9, something to that effect. He just put the beat down on Lombard in his last fight, which is a great fight, by the way, against a really good opponent. So now they're giving him to Bisping. Bisping wants the fight. Henderson shouldn't get the fight. We both agree. Real quickly, though, co-main event is Gegard Mousasi versus Vitor Belfort. Both those fights are going to be UFC 204, and it's going to be on October 10th.
Mousasi Belfort I could get down with. Bisping,
that's solid co-main.
Yeah. Bisping Henderson, not so much. Just because of the fact that I don't think Hendo deserves it. Most people don't. I mean, honestly, this is obviously a gimme fight for him to possibly get the belt before he retires. But I think Bisping just goes through him.
I mean, this is the movie sequel. Like the first movie was Bisping getting the title shot, in my opinion, legitimately only because there was people were hurt or people had lost. Even though he wasn't the best guy, he wasn't the number one contender. It's just the chips fell to him.
Yeah.
This time, Henderson does not deserve it at all. But through hook or crook or whatever the saying is, he's getting this shot, and this will be his last fight. And people talk about, he doesn't have a UFC championship, and that's true. And it'd be a great way for him to go out into the sunset, and that's true. I agree with that. What people don't usually say is that, oh, by the way, he lost two title fights already in the UFC.
Yeah.
He lost it to Quentin Rampage Jackson. His very next fight, he lost it to Anderson Silva.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like this guy didn't have chances, but he's got this third chance. Maybe the third time's a charm. For Mousasi and Belfort, I'm going to go Mousasi here. I think Belfort's pretty much done. I will say that Henderson has a chance of landing that H-bomb. I think he always has that chance.
Yeah.
I don't think Bisping's going to finish him. It's going to be 5 rounds, so I think he's going to take his time, pick him apart. My wife, Christy, even when I said that, the fight, she said that Bisping's going to destroy him. And I even told her, I said, what about the H-bomb? And she's like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so. I think Bisping's going to destroy him. Lombard almost put away Henderson pretty quickly there. Henderson, I don't want to say got lucky, but he got a good punch and an elbow on Lombard and ended up winning that fight. But, man, Lombard looked to be winning, up until that point. It looked like he was going to put Henderson away. So I think Bisping is an even smarter and more technical boxer than Lombard.
Yeah.
So I think Bisping's going to put him away. But it
so
could
you think
go,
he's going to finish him?
Yeah, it could be second round, but it might even be first.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll make a more of a clear pick.
Me too.
Later on, but I'm still leaning Bisping.
Yeah.
But I think that Henderson really has that chance with that knockout.
Oh yeah,
punch.
he has a
like
chance.
Their first fight. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to be like super competitive, and I don't think that
Exactly.
that Bisping is going to continue to go towards his right hand like an idiot, like in UFC 100. But I just think that even in the 5th round, unless Henderson looks tired, well, he'll look tired in the 5th. Let's just say this. If it's the 2nd or 3rd round and Bisping has been winning the fight, but Henderson still has some gas, it could end at any moment, and I'll just go with that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, what else you got for us, Mike?
We got 2 things left. This is pretty exciting. Tim Kennedy is back, fighting Rashad Evans at middleweight. This is Rashad Evans' debut at middleweight. That's going to be at UFC 205 on November 12th. That's the New York show. Finally, pro MMA in New York. Kennedy's back after 2 years. So, guys, if you guys are sort of new to the sport or don't remember Kennedy, well, he's back. And his last fight was that a debacle against Yoel Romero, Stoolgate, Jay, if you remember.
Yep.
He should have won that fight, but Yoel Romero's not camp, his coaching staff and everything, his corner, they let him sit there for about 2 minutes when it should have only been 1 minute, feigning ignorance so they didn't know what the ref was saying, and allowed him to get his wits about him, and then he knocked Kennedy out in the next round when it should have been ended in the 2nd. That's really all I have there. It's Evans' middleweight bout. So,
Mike, if the folks didn't hear it while you were talking though, and announced this fight, Tim Kennedy versus Rashad Evans, I'm gonna reenact what I said right after you read Rashad Evans, because that was my disgust, my audible disgust for Rashad Evans fighting again after his last performance in the octagon, because it was downright horrendous, and I wanted to see him just retire, and here he is coming back against a guy in Tim Kennedy that is going to destroy him with how bad he looked last time. Okay, Tim Kennedy is always in shape, always ready for a great scrap, and he's going to destroy Rashad.
Yeah, Tim Kennedy, military guy, always in shape. I mean, it's his lifestyle. The wrinkle for here is that it's Evans' middleweight debut. It's the thing I think that is his last straw. He's always been a small, light heavyweight. Look, I agree with you with Evans. I really do. But they got me with the middleweight debut and the fact that I get to see Tim Kennedy fight again, who, I was a fan in Strikeforce of him,
Yeah,
and
me too.
his only losses in Strikeforce have been to Jacare and Luke Rockhold, I believe.
Yep.
And I remember when I was writing about this last week, or maybe it's this week, about how amazing that was. And I remember watching. I may have watched that fight at your house. I don't remember.
Yeah, you probably did.
But I remember that was a close fight with him and Rockhold.
Yep.
And
He's a lot smaller than Rockhold.
Yes, he is. Yeah. And so to have Tim Kennedy back in the middleweight division, and for the reason he left after 2 years, it wasn't injuries. It was because he didn't like how that Yoel Romero situation was handled. And also he was one of the guys kind of like GSP who was tired of the PED problem being rampant. Yeah. So now he's back, and I'm very happy to see him in the middleweight ranks. Jay, Dominic Cruz, he talks about ring rust isn't real. I think it's real to the people who have it, and it's real to the people who don't have it. I don't know what he's gonna feel coming into the fight. But where would you put him now that he's back in the middleweight division?
I say you put him right outside the top 10.
Yeah,
I think he's right
10,
there. I think he's outside. I don't. He's close to top 10, but
now, is that because he's been gone and hasn't fought in 2 years, or
yeah,
do you think it's his skill level?
No. It's just because he's been gone.
Okay, I just want to clear that up for the people listening.
Because it's not that I don't think he has any skill. The guy is very skilled, and what's Jacare placed at right now? He's in the top 10 for sure.
Oh, Jacare's the number one contender, probably. He's like for sure top 5.
Yeah, and you're looking at Jacare being one of the only guys that's beaten Kennedy, and Rockhold the other guy.
Yeah.
Kennedy is okay. Now, if we're talking skill wise, where do I think he falls? Yeah, he's in the top 10 for sure. 8, 7.
Yeah, I know he's in the top 10. I'm trying to think if he's in the top 5. I mean, first of all,
I think he's right outside the top 5. So
yeah, that's kind of where I put him. By the way, I don't like when there's like the champ and then there's like 10 other guys. To me, the top 10 just number 1 should be the champ.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
So that's how I play my top 10.
Yeah.
So you've got Bisping, who's the champ, who I don't think actually would be in the top 5, but he is the champ. You've got Rockhold, Weidman, Jacare. Those are your 4 heavy hitters, in my opinion. And then you've got Yoel Romero, and then I think you might put Tim Kennedy in there with those guys. After that, though, you're going to have some fall off, or some guys that are younger guys like Derek Brunson, or even not so young guys in previously pound for pound king Anderson Silva. He's not in the top 5 anymore, but that's kind of how I view the middleweight division with Tim Kennedy coming back.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, what's up with Marcin Held, Mike?
Yeah, the final thing here is you guys may not be familiar with Marcin Held, especially if you don't watch Bellator. But if you do watch Bellator regularly, Marcin Held is a really great Brazilian jiu-jitsu savant, wizard, whatever you want to call him. He's 22-4 with 12 submissions and 4 TKOs. That's overall. He was 16-3 in Bellator with his losses to Michael Chandler and Will Brooks. The top of the heap, folks. I mean, but he won his rematch with Dave Jansen. Well, he's a free agent now, Marcin Held. He wants to go to the UFC. He's playing this game, he and Bellator, like everybody does when there's a free agent. Oh, we released him. Oh, no, I fought out my contract. So rather Bellator released him, which would be stupid in my opinion, or Held fought out his contract. He could go to the UFC, and I hope he does. I realize that he's not as flashy and as exciting as a lot of the fighters in Bellator that you might think of offhand. But when the guy gets a leg lock, when the guy, gets any kind of submission, he's a bulldog on it, and I really hope he gets to the UFC.
Yeah, me too, Mike. Anyway, Mike, let's get into some picks.
We pick 'em.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time left, so we'll go a little fast here. Bellator 160 is Friday. That's on the 26th. And we're also going to talk about UFC on Fox 21, which is the day after on the 27th. Since we usually have 2 weeks between, we'll also talk about UFC Fight Night 93. That's on Fight Pass solely, sadly. But Benson Henderson versus Patricio Pitbull Freire. That's Bellator 160's main event this Friday. Henderson, I think Henderson should use his size in wrestling to win. If he trades with Patricio, even though Patricio is smaller and former featherweight champ, I think he gets in trouble.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's my thoughts.
That's a great assessment. I think Patricio, I think is he's got good hands. So you're right about that. Man, I got to pick. So I'm going to go with Benson.
Yeah, if you guys remember the last podcast, I was starting to lead towards Patricio because Henderson he likes to trade. He doesn't like to use his wrestling as much anymore, or at least it seems like it to me. But Henderson loses his fight. He's 0-2 in Bellator. That's going to be crushing, especially losing to a smaller guy.
Yep.
You got anything else on that, Jay, or should we move on?
No, just go ahead and move on, I guess.
All right. Bubba Jenkins versus Georgie Carnihan 2. I was so bummed when this fight was moved to the prelims because what Bellator is doing is they're wanting to do like the UFC and get a bigger internet presence. So it make you go to watch it on their site. However, because of some injuries, they've moved the fight back to the main card. The first fight, Carnihan won, by guillotine choke. That was when Jenkins was still a little green, but not too far ago to be honest. But still, Jenkins was a little green. Jenkins is 11-2 with 4 KOs and 3 subs. Carnihan is 24-6-1 with 14 subs, 4 KOs, and lost to Daniel Weichel and Pat Curran since beating Jenkins. I throw those numbers out there just in case you guys are just watching the UFC. So I'm going to go with Jenkins here. I'm going to go ahead and not go with the veteran. I think Jenkins he looked great against Yamauchi in that last couple fights ago, and I think he's on his way. I think the wrestling, which he's great at, he's the former NCAA wrestler, he's going to get it done that way.
Yeah, I can see that, but I'm going to go with Carnihan just because of what happened the last time and where Carnihan's at, in his career. I think he's doing very well. So, Carnihan.
Yeah, I think it was a decision against Pat Curran. I don't think Pat Curran beat him outright. So I certainly see Carnihan have a chance to win the fight too. Let's move on to UFC on Fox 21. And by the way, Dish Network, get your stuff together. I want to watch this fight on my TV. Basically, that's a little personal note for me. And then you got Carlos Condit versus Damian Maia as the main event. You've got Anthony Pettis versus Charles Oliveira. You got Paige Van Zandt versus Beck Rawlings and Joe Lozon versus Jim Miller 2. Those are the 4 fights. Jay, Carlos Condit, Damian Maia. Condit by far the more well-rounded guy. Damian Maia still looks great. He's pretty well-rounded too. I mean, his wrestling's underrated. He'll shoot in for it to get a takedown, to get the back for the submission, or to become a backpack, as you like to say.
Yep.
But so I'm still going to go with Carlos Condit here. It's 5 rounds. And I think that Condit's going to be able to outlast Damian Maia, to get up after being taken down a couple times. If that happens, if he doesn't knock him out outright.
Yeah, that's my problem with this fight, that it's 5 rounds. And thinking about that, I'm going to sadly go against one of my favorite fighters, Carlos Condit, for Damian Maia here. I think because of the 5 rounds, I think that he's going to end up catching him, Mike. I think he's going to catch him in a sub.
Awesome. Let's go on then to Anthony Pettis versus Charles Oliveira. Pettis on that 3-fight losing streak, drops down to featherweight. Oliveira, though, he's been, he's only lost to the best. He's lost to Holloway, Edgar, Cerrone, Swanson, even Jim Miller. So, he's 21-5, 1 no contest, 13 submissions, 6 KO, TKOs. So he's a guy that I know you and I know him, and I know probably most people know him, but I just think that Oliveira may end up winning this fight because he's more comfortable at this weight. And, I think he's going to beat Pettis. I do. I think it might go the distance because Pettis is a tough guy. But I think that Oliveira, based off what he's done in the past and what I just read, I think he's going to win the decision.
Well, they've given Pettis, Barboza, and now they're giving him Oliveira, which he's not so much different from Barboza.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Oliveira wins this fight too, hands down.
Do you think he gets a finish, or do you think it's just a decision?
Probably a decision, most likely, but anything can happen. But I don't see Pettis winning either way.
Yeah. Paige Van Zandt versus Beck Rawlings. Van Zandt, she's fresh off Dancing with the Stars now, 6-2 with 2 submissions and 1 KO TKO. She just lost to Rose Namajunas. It's not that bad. Rose is a fantastic fighter. Rawlings is 7-4 with 4 submissions, 1 KO TKO. She's riding a 2-fight losing streak though. Was on the show with Rose, I believe, in the same season. But this is Van Zandt versus Rawlings. I have a hard time picking this fight because Rawlings really is a tough chick. She's a tough fighter.
Yep.
Van Zandt is tough in how she can take pain, obviously, as we've seen against Namajunas. But I'm gonna go with Van Zandt here simply because I think she really has something to prove here. She's not just a dancer, even though she was a great fighter coming into that show, Dancing with the Stars, that is. So I'm going to lean towards Van Zandt, even though Rawlings certainly could win this fight.
Yeah, Mike, I'm going to go with Beck Rawlings here. I think she's, like you said, she's a tough fighter, and I think she's going to beat Van Zandt. I think it'll be a decision, though.
Yeah, okay. Moving on, the final big fight on the card, Joe Lozon versus Jim Miller 2. I like this fight.
Already,
I
huh?
realize, what's that?
Didn't they just fight a few months ago?
No, they both fought at UFC 200, but they fought different guys.
Oh, okay. It just for some reason I thought they fought each other. It's weird.
I don't have the information in front of me, but I know they fought. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. So it was
okay.
It was not really enough to count to where it's gonna be that much of a difference. But the way I look at it is, I think Lozon still has it. Is more well-rounded, and I think that I think that Miller's lost a step. I mean, he's still a solid veteran at lightweight, but I just think that Lozon still has it,
Yeah, I was going to say Lozon is still Lozon, where Jim Miller, like you said, has lost a step. So I'm going to go with Joe Lozon here.
Yeah. The final fight card we're going to talk about, that's UFC Fight Night 93. That's exclusively on Fight Pass. Guys, not a lot of great fights here, so it's good that we're running out of time, I guess. So we'll just say that the main event is Andrei Arlovsky versus Josh Barnett, Alexander Gustafsson versus John Blankowicz, Ryan Bader versus Ilir Latifi. Now, no disrespect to Alexander Gustafsson, and really Ryan Bader, but especially Gustafsson, but this fight card's not that great.
No,
you've got Arlovsky fighting Barnett, and I believe Barnett's going to win this fight. Barnett hasn't shown me what I thought he would be in his return to the UFC, sadly, but I still think he has what it takes to beat Arlovsky.
Yeah, and Arlovsky surely hasn't shown us anything since he's been back.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going Josh Barnett all day here. When it comes to Alexander Gustafsson versus Blankowicz, Gustafsson. I'm going for him there. And Ryan Bader versus Latifi, Mike, I'm going Latifi. How about you? Those two fights.
I'm going to go. Oh, you're going Latifi?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go Bader. But let me just give you a quick on Blankowicz because I knew the name, but if you gave me 3 pictures of him, of 3 people, and one of them was him, I wouldn't be able to pick him out. But he's 19-5 with 7 submissions and 5 KO TKOs. He hasn't really fought any names. And he's fighting Alexander Gustafsson. So I'm picking Gustafsson here. I think it's just a way to keep Gustafsson in the title picture. I realize that it's not like Gustafsson is like falling off, but they want to keep him, at the top, I think. So they're giving him a gimme. And then for Ryan Bader fighting Ilir Latifi, Latifi's 12-4, 1 no contest, 5 KO TKOs and 4 submissions. He hasn't beaten any big names either. He did fight Gegard Mousasi, and he lost to him, but that was on short notice, less than a week. So I'm going Ryan Bader. Now, Jay, why are you picking Latifi? I'm
just not that impressed with Ryan Bader lately. He's won a bunch of decisions and lost by KO to Anthony Johnson. But before that, he decisioned against Rashad Evans, man. And then Phil Davis, and not knocking Phil Davis. I like him as a fighter, but he's with Bellator now, and he's lost a step too when it comes to the UFC fight game. So I don't know. I just think I'm going Latifi here.
Yeah, my pick for Ryan Bader is simply, he could be slowing down, but Latifi just hasn't beaten any decent names yet. As soon as he does, it's like we talk about Mighty Mouse, especially when I talk about him, which is I'm not going to pick against Mighty Mouse until he loses.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel with Latifi. I'm not going to pick him against a name until he actually beats a name. So that's where I'm going with Bader. So
I hear you, and you could be very right on this, but it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and go with Latifi, though. My gut instinct here.
Yeah, well, he's a strong guy. I will tell you that. So,
all right, Mike. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. So let's go ahead and get going here. So if you want to talk about anything here, let the people know.
Yeah, check out the Facebook page. I'm doing that still every day. Big sports, big news comes out. I pop it up there. I try and make it a little interactive too with some polls and stuff like that. So, you can also just chime in on messages as well. Just tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like us to talk about. Jay, they can do that on podcast. Not podcast. They can do that on Twitter as well. MMA Think Tank PC, correct? That's
that's correct.
Yeah. So you can get us on there as well. That's where we're at. So we got Bellator next week as well as 2 UFC cards. So I'm still excited for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and make sure you email us too at mmathinktank@gmail.com. And of course, you could always phone us, guys. That phone line is open always for you guys. Leave us a message there at 925-237-1296.
Yeah, and if you've got some great knowledge for the show, we can talk about something if we miss something, especially if you have some sort of take we didn't get, and we'll bring it up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Or if you just agree with me, I'll take your call, put it on the air, just so I could say, "See, Mike, you're wrong. This person agrees with me," and vice versa. Mike will do that for anybody that agrees with him. So, anyway, guys, what we're saying is you can talk to us. This is all about the MMA Think Tank motto here. We're trying to get all the heads together, talking about MMA, mixed martial arts. This is the sport we love. So, yeah, we'd love to talk with you guys on it. All right, guys. So until next time.
You guys have a good one.